Good afternoon. We are in chapter 11, and we are going to do the participants in the mysteries is the head of the of this chapter. All right. The participants in the mysteries are generally known, and no secret has been made of the general personnel and procedure. It is only sought here to impart a greater sense of reality to the data already given by a fuller exposition and a more pointed reference to the parts played by such during the ceremony. At this stage, the student would be wise to bear in mind certain things as he ponders upon the mysteries touched upon here. That care must be taken to interpret all here given in terms of spirit and not of matter or form. We are dealing entirely with the subjective or consciousness aspect of manifestation, and with that which lies back of the objective form. This realization will save the student from much later confusion. And it always helps to be thinking in terms of, as the observer, in awareness, consciousness. And it's beneficial that we start looking at all of the, the things that are happening in outer expression as energetic as well. That we are considering facts which are substantial and real on the mental plane, the plane on which all the major initiations take place, but which are not materialized on the physical plane and are not physical plane phenomena. The link between the two planes exists in the continuity of consciousness, which the initiate will have developed, and which will enable him to bring through to the physical brain occurrences and happenings upon the subjective planes of life. Wow, that is pretty intense. As we, more and more are focused on the mental plane, now we're kind of being pushed to remain in this abstract kind of area, right? And it's almost like we have to stay there. And not almost like it. I think it probably actually is exactly like that. But it's, right now we're being guided to that. So. Corroboration of initiation. Corroboration of these occurrences and proof of the accuracy of the transmitted knowledge will demonstrate as follows. In and through the etheric centers. These centers will be greatly stimulated and will, through their increased inherent energy, enable the initiate to accomplish more in the path of service than he ever before dreamed possible. His dreams and ideals become not possibilities, but demonstrating facts in manifestation. The physical centers, such as the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, will begin to develop rapidly, and he will become conscious of the awakening of the cities or powers of the soul in the higher connotation of the words. He will be aware of the process of conscious control and of the self-initiated manipulation of the above powers. He will realize the methods of egoic contact and the right direction of force. The nervous system through which the emotional body or astral nature works will become highly sensitized, yet strong withal. The brain will become ever more rapidly an acute transmitter of the inner impulses. This fact is of real importance and will bring about, as its significance becomes more apparent, a revolution in the attitude of educators, of physicians and others to the development of the nervous system and the healing of nervous disorders. And then there's also occult memory. The initiate finally becomes aware increasingly of the growth of that inner recollection or occult memory, which concerns the work of the hierarchy and primarily his share in the general plan. When the initiate, who occultly recalls in his waking consciousness a ceremonial fact, finds all these manifestations of increased growth and conscious realization in himself, then the truth of his inner assurance is proven and substantiated to him. It must be remembered that this inner substantiation is of no value to anyone but the initiate. He has to prove himself to the outer world through his life of service and the work accomplished, and thereby call forth from all his environing associates a recognition that will show itself in a sanctified emulation and a strenuous effort to tread the same path, actuated ever by the same motive, that of service and brotherhood, not self-aggrandizement and selfish acquirement. It should also be remembered that if the above is true in connection with the work, it is still more true in connection with the initiate himself. Initiation is a strictly personal matter with a universal application. It rests upon his inner attainment. The initiate will know for himself when the event occurs and needs no one to tell him of it. The expansion of consciousness, called initiation, must include the physical brain, or it is of no value. Right, that makes perfect sense. As those lesser expansions of consciousness, which we undergo normally every day and call learning something or other, so learning something or other, this is interesting in itself. Those lesser expansions of consciousness, which we go normally every day. And I'll refer to Rumi here, our whirling dervish friend and poet and Sufi, when he says, "The morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep." We call learning something or other have reference to the apprehension by the physical brain of an imparted fact or apprehended circumstance. So with the greater expansions, which are the outcome of the many lesser. So things come together in a much bigger way. At the same time, it is quite possible for men to be functioning on the physical plane and to be actively employed in world service who have no recollection of having undergone the initiatory process, yet who, nevertheless, may have taken the first or second initiation in a previous or earlier life. This is the result simply of a lack of bridging from one life to another, where it may be the outcome of a definite decision by the ego. A man may be able better to work off certain karma and to carry out certain work for the lodge if he is free from the occult occupation and mystic introspection during the period of any one earth life. There are many such amongst the sons of men at this time who have previously taken the first initiation and who have taken the second initiation, but who are nevertheless quite unaware of it. Yet their centers and nervous organization carry proof to those who have the inner vision. If initiation is taken for the first time in any life, the recollection of it extends to the physical brain. Curiosity, or even ordinary good living, never brought a man to the portal of initiation. Curiosity, by the arousing of a strong vibration in a man's lower nature, only serves to sway him away from instead of towards the goal he is interested in. Curiosity by arousing a strong vibration in a man's lower nature. And then this is where we build, energy follows thought. And if we're not focused on above and higher, then we're going to get stuck again and fall back down into ignorance, essentially. And then have to deal on the inertia that's brought about there. Whilst ordinary good living, when not furthered by a life of utter sacrifice for others, and by a reticence, humility, and disinterestedness, it's not a word that we use much today. Disinterestedness of a very unusual kind. Let me start this over again. Curiosity by arousing a strong vibration of man's lower nature only serves to sway him away from instead of towards the goal he is interested in. Whilst ordinary good living, when not furthered by a life of utter sacrifice for others, and by a reticence, humility, and disinterestedness of a very unusual kind, may serve to build good vehicles which will be of use in another incarnation, but will not serve to break down those barriers, outer and inner, and overcome those opposing forces and energies which stand between a good man and the ceremony of initiation. The path of discipleship is a difficult one to tread, and this is said many, many times over, and the path of initiation harder still. An initiate is a battle-scarred warrior, the victor of in many a hard-won fight. He speaks not of his achievements, for he is too busy with the great work in hand. He makes no reference to himself or to all that he has accomplished, save to deprecate the littleness of what has been done. Nevertheless, to the world, he is ever a man of large influence, the wielder of spiritual power, the embodier of ideals, the worker for humanity, who unfailingly brings results with which succeeding generations will recognize. He is one who, in spite of all this great achievement, is seldom understood by his own generation. He is frequently the butt of men's tongues, and frequently all that he does is misinterpreted. He lays his all time, money, influence, reputation, and all that the world considers worthwhile upon the altar of altruistic service, and frequently offers his life as a final gift, only to find that those whom he has served throw his gift back to him, scorn his renunciation, and label him with unsavory names. And this is very biblical at this point, right? So it's understood. This is in some of our experience, certainly, or will be. The initiate cares not, for his is the privilege to see somewhat into the future, and therefore he realizes that the force he has generated will in due course of time bring to fulfillment the plan. He knows also that his name and effort are noted in the archives of the lodge, and that the silent watcher over the affairs of men has taken notice. All right. Planetary existences. In considering how the personalities taking part in the initiation ceremonies, in considering now the personalities taking part in the initiation ceremonies, the first to be dealt with are those who are termed planetary existences. This refers to those great beings who, for a period of planetary manifestation, overshadow or stay with our humanity. They are not very many in number, for the majority of the great ones pass on steadily and increasingly to other and higher work, as their places can be taken and their functions carried on by members of our Earth evolution, both Deva and human. Among those directly connected with our Lodge of Masters and its various divisions upon the planet, the following might be enumerated. The Silent Watcher, that great entity who is the informing life of the planet and who holds the same position to the Lord of the world, Sanat Kumara, as the ego does to the lower self of man. Some idea of the high stage of evolution of this great being may be gathered from the analogous degree of evolutionary difference existing between a human being and a perfected adept. It's a world apart, essentially. From the standpoint of our planetary scheme, this great life has no greater. From the standpoint of our planetary scheme, this great life has no greater, and he is, as far as we are concerned, a correspondence to the personal God of the Christian. He works through his representatives on the physical plane, Sanat Kumara, who is the focal point for his life and energy. He holds the world within his aura. This great existence is only contacted directly by the adept who has taken the fifth initiation and is proceeding to take the other two, the sixth and seventh. Once a year at the Wesak festival, the Lord Buddha, sanctioned by the Lord of the world, carries to the assembled humanity a dual stream of force that emanating from the Silent Watcher, supplemented by the more focalized energy of the Lord of the world. This dual energy he pours out in blessing over the people gathered at the ceremony in the Himalayas, and from them, in turn, it flows out to all peoples and tongues and races. It may not perhaps be generally known that at certain crises during the World War I, the Great War, World War I, excuse me, the hierarchy of our planet deemed it well nigh necessary to invoke the aid of the Silent Watcher, and employing the great mantra whereby the Buddha can be reached, called the attention of the latter and sought his agency with the planetary logos. In consultation between the planetary logos, the Lord of the world, one of the Buddhas of activity, the Buddha, the Mahachohan, and the Manu, these names are given in order of their relative evolutionary stage, it was decided to watch proceedings a little longer before interfering with the trend of affairs, as the karma of the planet would have been delayed should the strife have been ended too soon. Their confidence in the ability of men duly to adjust conditions was justified, and interference proved needless. This conference took place at Shambhala. This is mentioned to show the close scrutiny given to everything concerning the affairs of men by the various planetary existences. It is literally true in an occult sense that not a sparrow falleth without its fall being noticed. All is one, as I can imagine certain people would say after having read that. All is one, and that's the end of that, right? So of course, that's the case. We look at this from a very personal perspective up until a point, and then find out through experience that all is one gradually, and it's definitely cause contemplation. Let's put it that way. It may be asked why the Bodhisattva was not included in the conference. The reason was that the war was in the department of the Manu, and members of the hierarchy concern themselves with that which is strictly their own business. The Mahachohan, being the embodiment of the intelligent or monastic principle, participates in all conferences. In the next great strife, the Department of Religions will be involved and the Bodhisattva intimately concerned. His brother, the Manu, will then be relatively exempt and will proceed with his own affairs. And yet withal, there is the closest cooperation in all departments with no loss of energy, owing to the unity of consciousness of those who are free from the lower three lower planes that transpire. Owing to the unity of consciousness of those who are free from the three lower planes, what transpires in one department is known in the others. As the planetary logos is only concerned in the two final initiations, which are not compulsory as are the earlier five, it serves no purpose to enlarge upon his work. These initiations are taken upon the Buddhic and Atmic levels, whereas the first five are taken upon the mental. The Lord of the world, the one initiator, he who is called in the Bible the Ancient of Days, and in the Hindu scriptures the first Kumara, he, Sunat Kumara it is, who from his throne at Shambhala in the Gobi Desert presides over the Lodge of Masters and holds in his hands the reins of government in all the three departments. Called in some scriptures the Great Sacrifice, he has chosen to watch over the evolution of men and devas until all have been occultly saved. He it is who decides upon the advancements in the different departments and who settles who shall fill the vacant posts. He it is who 4 times a year meets in conference with all the Chohans and masters and authorizes what shall be done to further the ends of evolution. Occasionally, too, he meets with initiates of lesser degree, but only at times of great crises. When some individual is given the opportunity to bring peace out of strife and to kindle a blaze whereby rapidly crystallizing forms are destroyed and the imprisoned life consequently set free. At stated periods in the year, the lodge meets and at the Wesak festival gathers under his jurisdiction for 3 purposes. One, to contact planetary force through the medium of the Buddha, to hold the principle of the quarterly conferences, and 3, to admit the ceremony of initiation those who are ready in all grades. 3 other initiation ceremonies take place during the year. 1, for the minor initiations administered by the Bodhisattva, all of which are in the department of the Mahachohan, and on one or other of the 4 lesser rays, the rays of attribute. 2, for the major initiations on one or other of the 3 major rays, the rays of aspect, which are administered by the Bodhisattva and are therefore the first 2 initiations. And 3, for the higher 3 initiations at which Sunat Kumara wields the rod. At all initiations, the Lord of the world is present. but at the first two, he holds a position similar to that held by the silent watcher. When Sunat Kumara administers the oath at the third, fourth, and fifth initiation, when at all initiations, the Lord of the world is present, but at the first two, he holds a position similar to that held by the silent watcher when Sunat Kumara administers the oath at the third, fourth, and fifth initiations. His power streams forth, and the flashing forth of the star before the initiate is the signal of his approval, but the initiate does not see him face to face until the third initiation. The function of the three Kumaras, or the three Buddhas of activity at initiation, is interesting. Hold on a second. I'm still getting over this. It's just one of those things. Got a little something and it lingers a bit. Goes through its stages. The function of the three Kumaras, or the three Buddhas of activity at initiation, is interesting. They are three aspects of the one aspect. And the pupils of Sunat Kumara, they are three aspects of the one aspect and the pupils of Sunat Kumara. Though their functions are many and varied and concern primarily the forces and energies of nature and the direction of the building agencies, they have a vital connection with the applicant for initiation, inasmuch as they embody the force or energy of one or other of the three higher subplanes of the mental plane. Okay, and this is the three Kumaras, or the three Buddhas of activity. Therefore, at the third initiation, one of these Kumaras transmits to the causal body of the initiate that energy which destroys third subplane matter, and thus brings about part of the destruction of the vehicle. At the fourth initiation, another Buddha transmits second plane force, and at the fifth, first subplane force is similarly passed into the remaining atoms of the causal vehicle, producing the final liberation. The work done by the second Kumara with second subplane force is in this solar system the most important in connection with the egoic body and produces its complete dissipation, whereas the final application causes the atoms themselves, which form that body, to disperse. Again, this is a good time to refer to the chart, the Constitution of Man chart, that is in the notes on these videos. And like I said, I have it on my wall back here where I'll sit on my couch and I'll just look at that for a while. And what we're learning here comes to, can be seen visually in a sense, as I look at it. It's just, so that's a great visual tool. Like I said in the past, it's amazing that so much can be put in a few lines and dots and triangles and circles. It's just amazing. And it's common. It's not a unique thing. This is known by theosophists are well aware of this. It's a growth. That chart, is a growth from a number of those who came before, and you can see that as we did earlier in a study in consciousness from Annie Besant, when we talked about that earlier in this book. These things are consistent across the board. These levels can be recognized as the ladder is climbed, in a sense. with the work of trying, and with, looking at this chart is greatly helpful, I want to say. So we can have that reference. And it adds a little bit of something to contemplation, like staring at, something like the ecstasy of Saint Teresa, or some beautiful painting. During the initiation ceremony, when the initiate stands before the Lord of the world, these three great beings form a triangle, within whose line of force the initiate finds himself. At the first two initiations, wherein the Bodhisattva functions as the Hierophant, the Mahachohan, the Manu, and the Chohan, who temporarily represents the second department, perform a similar office. At the highest two initiations, those three Kumaras, who are called the esoteric Kumaras, form a triangle wherein the initiate stands when he faces the planetary logos. These facts are imparted to teach two things. First, the unity of the method. Second, that the truism, as above, so below, is an occult fact in nature. And that, the law of correspondences and these things, this is very, extremely helpful in understanding things in reference to as above, so below. At the final two initiations, many members of the hierarchy who are, if one might so express it, extraplanetary, and who function outside the dense physical and the etheric globe of our planet, take part, but a stricter enumeration is needless. Sanat Kumara is still the Hierophant, yet in a very esoteric manner, it is the planetary Logos himself who officiates. They are merged at that time into the one identity, manifesting different aspects. So now we're talking, an incredible whirlwind of energetic, light and all that we can't really imagine, is what I'm thinking there. Suffice it to say, in concluding this brief statement, that the making of an initiate is an affair with a dual effect, for it involves ever a passing on of some adept or initiate to a higher grade or to other work, and the coming in under the law of some human being who is in process of attainment. Therefore, it is a thing of great moment, involving group activity, group loyalty, and united endeavor, and much may depend upon the wisdom of admitting a man to high office and to take a place in the council chambers of the hierarchy. So this is these are high points. These are great moments. It's entrance into a new, entrance into new experience and new service, new consciousness, new awareness. Potentially at some point between, after I've been told at the third initiation, you're not dealing in forces any longer. We're dealing in energy now, and it's the forces and what we're operating with in this body. The motor, what's fueling the motor essentially changes, and instead of running on fuel and on and with a regular motor like in our car, a rotary, an engine, it's now running on solar power. Essentially, that's the changeover. It's like to a hard solid state hard drive type of thing. We go from running on forces to now running on energy. So it's an actual change in this apparatus and what's fueling it. Departmental heads are the Manu, the Bodhisattva, and the Mahachohan. As has been said, these three great beings represent the triplicity of all manifestation and might be expressed under the following form, remembering that all this deals with subjectivity and therefore with the evolution of consciousness and primarily with self-consciousness in man. The Manu can be we looked at under the matter aspect, form, the not self, or the body. The Bodhisattva as the spirit aspect, life, the self, or spirit. And the Mahachohan, all right, you know what? I'm going to start this over. I don't like how I was explaining that because this is like a chart, kind of a form here. So under the Manu, we have the matter aspect. The matter, we're going to go Manu, Bodhisattva, Mahachohan. Matter, spirit, intelligence. Manu, form, Bodhisattva, life, Mahachohan, mind. The not self under the Manu, the self under the Bodhisattva, and the relation between the two as the Mahachohan, and then also body, spirit, and soul. You know, I want to say there could also be Holy Spirit, the Father and the Son, if we went about it like that as well. So under the Manu is matter, form, the not self, and the body. Under the Bodhisattva is spirit, life, the self, and spirit, the spirit aspect. And then under the Mahachohan is intelligence, mind, the relation between, and soul. Or in words strictly dealing with self-conscious realization, we have politics, religion, and science, government, beliefs, and civilization, or races, faiths, and education. And I would recommend that you know, being that this was not the easiest thing to express. Let me do this quickly. How about that? There you have it right there. And you can kind of see what that chart looks like. This is what we had just gone through here. You can pause it there and take a look at that. All right, now, I don't want anybody missing anything of importance. So those correlations are really huge in these throughout these books, because what you find is there's many ways to express things, and if we get confused about talking about things, these things coming together it creates a new awareness, because these aspects are oftentimes can be related to one another, and it's important to know what's related and how they're related. Sometimes it's an exoteric expression, sometimes it's an aspect, sometimes it's an attribute, sometimes it's esoteric, and you know, we can talk about the same thing from different levels and perspectives. So once we can put them all together, our awareness it's synthesized. Not to say that I have all that. I do not. This is the work. And it's also energy. So all these things are related to energy. It's all energetic relation. It's all found on certain levels of consciousness. So this is very, as simple as things sometimes appear to be, it's just also very complex in the inner workings. And that's why we create this foundation as we're going along. This is all very important stuff to know. Because we can help others with it. All human beings belong to one or other of these three departments, and all are of equal importance, for spirit and matter are one. All are so interdependent, being but expressions of one life, that the endeavor to express the functions of the three departments in tabular form is liable to lead to error. The three great lords closely cooperate in the work, and that work is one. Just as man, though a triplicity, is yet an individual unit. And again, as we refer to ourselves as the triple nature, the body, spirit, and soul, you can see that when we talk in triplicity, that would also be the case there. But, I can talk about my body being injured, and this would be that aspect of this triplicity. And then I can talk about, the soul aspect of this. And then we know that now we're talking on a different level, and we can talk about spirit and that also, and what's animating this. And so there's different ways, but it's one. You see me as one, and these things are also one. But we're looking at the aspects and breaking it down into a level of understanding. The human being is a form through which a spiritual life or entity is manifesting and employing the intelligence under evolutionary law. Therefore, the great lords are closely connected with the initiations of a human unit. They are too occupied with greater affairs and with group activities to have any relationship with a man until he stands upon the probationary path. If we look at the collective going about the business, you can see why this is the case. Until a turnaround until we turn and start heading in the other direction, it would make perfect sense that they would be too occupied. When he has, through his own effort, brought himself on to the path of discipleship, the particular master who has him under supervision reports to the head of one of the three departments, this being dependent upon a man's ray, that he is nearing the portal of initiation and should be ready for the great step during such and such a life. Each life, and later each year, report is made until the final year upon the path of probation, when closer and more frequent reports are handed in. During this final year also, the applicant's name is submitted to the lodge, and after his own master has reported on him and his record has been briefly summarized, his name is balloted and sponsors are arranged. During the initiation ceremony, the important factors are 1, the initiator, 2, the triangle of force formed by 3 adepts or 3 kumaras, and then 3, the sponsors. In the case of the first 2 initiations, 2 masters stand, one on each side of the applicant, within the triangle, At the third, fourth, and fifth initiations, the Mahachohan and the Bodhisattva perform the function of sponsor. At the sixth and seventh, the two great beings who must remain nameless stand within the esoteric triangle. The work of the sponsors is to pass through their bodies the force or electrical energy emanating from the rod of initiation. This force, through radiation, circles around the triangle and is supplemented by the force of the three guardians. It is next passed through the centers of the sponsors, being transmitted by an act of will to the initiate. Enough has been said elsewhere in this book anent the Lodge of Masters and their relation to the applicant for initiation, whilst the work of the initiate himself has been likewise touched upon. That work is not unknown to the children of men everywhere, but remains as yet an ideal and a far off possibility. And that would, that work is not unknown to the children of men everywhere, but remains as yet an ideal and a far off possibility. This is foundational. It's in us, it's built in, but not manifesting. Yet when a man strives to reach that ideal, to make it a demonstrating fact within himself, he will find that it becomes not only a possibility, but something attainable, provided he strives sufficiently. The first initiation is within reach of the many, but the necessary one-pointedness and the firm belief in the reality ahead, coupled to a willingness to sacrifice all rather than turn back, are deterrents to many. If this book serves no other purpose than to spur someone to renewed believing effort, it will not have been written in vain. Now, that is coming from one of the most knowledgeable masters that there are in regard to the human condition and psychology and esoterics related to humans. And he says, if this book serves no other purpose than to spur someone to a renewed believing effort, it will not have been written in vain. And what was said in the Bible, leaves the 99 to go get the one. And this is amazing stuff. And that was chapter 11, friends. Very powerful stuff built in there. And hopefully, as we're going along with this and we're reading this and we're listening to these things and absorbing this material, the hope is, like we discussed earlier in this chapter, is that each day there is a slight expansion. There's a new learning, a new knowing, and the hope is that what we're studying here is coming together day by day, even just in the tiniest way. And when we start to hear something from earlier, and it comes together with something, and these things make just the tiniest bit more sense. That's the evocation process, and working out, because we're asking these questions. You are asking these questions. What is this? I'm hearing them. What does this mean? And this new information is requiring the mind to assimilate and go find the answers. And those answers then work their way down into the brain. And this is the need for illumination, because we need this brain to be receptive. And I'm figuring that if we're the ones studying this and listening to this, then we know what we're talking about, because you could see that these things are happening in our life. These books are literally the human condition. They are just saying it as it is. take it or leave it. It makes no difference whatsoever for those who don't want to study it. But when the time comes, it will be, things will become much more clear. I'm going to do a video at some point here soon about why I started studying these books and why I continue to study them now, and pretty much left all other things behind. And why I recommend them. I've said it many times before, but this is our experience. And as we're waking up, we have experiences. These energies are transmuted. They're transformed. There's expansions. There's along the way. There's little expansions, and then there's expansions. And then as we read these books, we find out how scientifically or technically these things are actually happening. So these books are validating our prior experience leading up to when we start reading them. And then they show us also the way ahead and what we can kind of anticipate in a sense, and what is going to help drive us to the next point, and also the pitfalls along the way. This is not woo-woo by any stretch. This is straight talk. This is not all I want to say all mystical. This is not astral. This is mental plane work at this point. So this is going forward. This is evolutionary. This is not involutionary work here. This is not holding us back. This is actually propelling us forward. Now, people want to study other stuff? Study other stuff. I like this. Well, you like it, but you have not come to terms with the fact that we need to be aware of the most powerful material. And if we're really getting somewhere, then we find the most powerful, and what's going to bring together all of the teachings and bring us up to speed very quickly, get it synthesized and moving forward. So there's that. All right, sorry. That I am passionate about this stuff. All right. We will pick up with chapter 12 tomorrow, which is called The Two Revelations. Have a good one.